So what is going on with diversity, equity, and inclusion in accounting? Is it a DEI retreat? Is it the death sentence for accounting talent? Imagine if you're a young, ambitious accountant fresh out of university. We get a lot of these on our YouTube channel here on the Accounting Influencers podcast. You're eager to work in a firm that values your skills, your perspective, your background, that appreciates all the hard work you put in getting your accountancy or your CPA qualification. Now imagine walking into that firm and realizing DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, that yesterday's priorities, today they're all being quietly shelved. Daniel Hood, in a great piece in Accounting Today, I'm going to share some things in what he says, but he speaks a lot of sense. It's happening in accounting, but it's happening all over, that these initiatives are being sunsetted, and that's really what's unfolding across accounting. KPMG, this broken going concern, latest to scale back DEI initiatives. We've done a previous podcast on Deloitte pulling back last year. Even though their UK arm is embracing meritocracy and diversity and everything else. But Goldman Sachs, Meta, Google, they're all doing the same thing. You've seen a lot of this in the news. What we're about on the Accounting Influencers podcast is giving you the insights on what you can take away for your career, your leadership, to make sure you're ahead of the news. Some people say that this is just firms adapting to new legal, political pressures. Donald Trump's been in the news a lot recently, and he's certainly not one for holding back, but he's created the directive, hasn't he, that is impacting now on US accounting firms. Some say it's just adaptation. Some say it's a retreat that could cripple talent acquisition and retention and the profession's long-term viability. Let's see what Dan Hood has to say. DEI in accounting is not about depriving qualified candidates of jobs or hiring unqualified people because of their race and gender. Accounting is in the midst of a truly massive staffing shortage. No one's turning away qualified candidates, no matter what race or gender or anything else. Instead, he says, DEI in accounting is about finding new pools of qualified candidates and drawing them into the profession and getting them here to stay, which is a great thing. And he says all the DEI programs I've ever looked at, all the DEI leaders are focused on two things. Here are the two things. First, the reaching out to groups. We're trying to make the profession more attractive here, aren't we? In the midst of a talent pipeline vacuum, less and less people coming into accounting degrees, into the profession generally. The boomers are dying off and retiring. A lot of people have leached out of accounting during the pandemic, said, is it really worth it? All the overwhelm, the overload, mental health issues, the leaching out into maybe accounting in industry jobs or going into tech or coming out of accounting altogether. So Dan Hood says this, DEI is trying to reach out to groups that haven't traditionally thought about accounting as a career path, and they're encouraging them to try it. That means they're trying to get, say, Black or Latino high school, college students to pursue accounting degrees. Those people that have been disenfranchised or not even been attracted by accounting back in the day. The goal is then, once they've successfully completed their degrees, guiding them into accounting firms, maybe getting their CPA or chartered accountancy qualifications. So that's the first thing DEI has been all about. The second is they're trying to make their firms more welcoming and comfortable places for qualified people from underrepresented groups to work in, so that those people stick around. So firms have been running DEI initiatives and wanting to be seen as running these because it attracts new talent. They don't want to fall behind in the talent war. Dan says this, are DEI programs keeping up with the numbers? Yes. Are they aiming to bring up the number of qualified people in underrepresented groups to join the profession? Yes. Are they not hiring qualified white male job candidates? No. And Dan says this, which I love. Believe me, if an accounting firm finds a qualified candidate of any race or gender, they're hiring them. Most firms would hire a qualified wildebeest if the wildebeest were available and could start before the end of the tax season. So kudos to Dan Hood for calling that out. Where does this get us? The KPMG instance is interesting. They had an Accelerate 2025 program that was designed to boost leadership diversity, and it's gone quietly discontinued. No press releases, no big announcements, just a shift in priorities. And this is because the political landscape for DEI, the mandate for it, is changing. Some very proactive states, Florida, Texas in the States, are actively rolling back their policies, and federal contracts are at stake. We talked about this with the Deloitte situation. They get over $3 billion a year in government and federal contracts. And if the government says don't do DEI, then they're obviously going to fall in line with that. The Supreme Court ruled on affirmative action, and it's sending ripples through corporate America because firms that once championed DEI, they're now weighing the risks on compliance and finance. And it's not just accounting firms, obviously, other industries are pulling back. So the real question here is, are these firms making a strategic business decision to keep on going with DEI and keep the talent pipeline full and keep showing that they are embracing diversity and come one and all? Or are they giving into political pressure at the expense of talent and obeying any directives or falling in line with the other corporates, peer pressure really, to sunset these diversity programs? Is it costing accounting firms a lot of money to run these DEI programs and reports? I want to share with you a little bit that's come out on the governing body websites. So it's interesting what these websites have to say. The AICPA and CIMA said, I'll find it in just a moment, we encourage workplaces within the accounting and finance profession to cultivate an environment where the workplace is inclusive of people with different experiences and perspectives and where diversity of thought is valued and supported. Our resources are designed to support a culture where everyone can grow and thrive. That's the AICPA and CIMA, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. ACCA, the Association of Chartered and Certified Accountants, since its founding in 1904, ACCA has a core value of facilitating a profession that is open to all, inclusive, along with high integrity and innovation. These are our core values. So that's the governing bodies. Now, that was from 2021 with the ACCA. I don't know if they'll change their stance on that, and why should they, given that we want to have a profession here that is inclusive to all people. The question is, does it need to be an overt policy to do that, or should it happen naturally? So where does this get us to? If the AICPA and CIMA are stressing that inclusive workplaces foster innovation and problem solving, and this directly impacts a firm's success and sustainability, then that's not going to go away. It's going to give you a business advantage. It's not a moral imperative. It's a competitive necessity. If it's a core value of your firm, then you want to keep on going with it. So some firms are stepping back. Some firms are heeding what the governing bodies are telling them and thinking it's just the right thing to do. There's contradiction here, isn't there? You as a professional in an accounting firm, you're going to have your own views. You obviously are looking out for your own career prospects. You want to bring in as many people as possible because you don't want to be overloaded with your workload. You want a diverse, inclusive team. You want lots of hands on deck to manage the workload. But it has implications, doesn't it? And particularly for talent. If you roll back on your DEI initiatives and make it a less prominent feature of what you're doing in your firm, are you going to be at a disadvantage? A recent Glassdoor survey found that 77% of Gen Z job seekers, 79% of millennials consider diversity an important factor when choosing an employer. Even Gen X and baby boomers do show strong support for DEI initiatives. And yet less than half of accounting firms are tracking DEI progress. Less than half have any kind of DEI policy. Some believe they're already diverse enough, they're already doing enough, they're already displaying what DEI initiatives should be doing. So despite the fact that accounting remains overwhelmingly white and male, especially at leadership levels, it's not changing. If firms continue to pull back on DEI, they might be avoiding some political headaches, might be actively repelling the next generation of accountants. Let's be honest, the accounting profession is already struggling to attract talent. We know that the pipeline of accountants is shrinking. AI might pick up some of that slack, but still, young professionals are leaving into finance, into consulting, into tech, and can firms really afford to alienate even more potential recruits? And this is what I'm looking forward to seeing in what happens with the fallout from KPMG and Deloitte and other firms that are sunsetting DEI. Because we know there's burnout, we know there's mental health. A Harvard Business Review study found that most DEI leaders last just 3 years. Isn't that interesting? The leaders, the people that are championing these causes, because they're facing constant resistance, criticism, apathy, even hostility, and they're expected to be the cheerleaders of change, while firms are quietly dismantling the very initiatives and sunsetting the reports that these people were hired to build. According to the Journal of Organizational Behavior, the emotional labor of DEI work, the stress that it extols, and having to maintain positive energy while dealing with resistance. That leads to exhaustion and high turnover in the people that are leading DEI initiatives. And let's not forget, many of these professionals are from many underrepresented groups themselves, the people that are leading the DEI charge. So a lot of emotional toll on these people. They're not lasting long. So if the whole DEI importance now is being taken away from them, so it's not on the agenda, what price their jobs? These have been the champions in the past. These have been the champions in the past. So firms not only risk losing diverse talent and at entry and leadership levels, they're also burning out the very people tasked with making change happen. So what should you do now? If you're an accounting leader, you've got a personal stance to take. You've also got the corporate stance to take in terms of what are you going to do with your firm and your leadership and your team. You can't pretend this doesn't exist. You can ignore DEI and obey the government or any directives you're getting from anywhere else. You can try and reverse it. I don't know what consequences that will have, but here are a few takeaways for you as we close. Always assess your talent pipeline and where are your potential recruits coming from for you, your firm, your team, and how does your employer brand, this is how attractive you are as a firm to work for. This is what it says on your website about us and about our people. Is that transparent? Is that showing that you are a firm to work? Is that showing diverse talent out there that there's people like them in your firm? Does it reflect your commitment or lack of commitment to DEI? Your website, your LinkedIn page will be putting out your opinions in one way or the other. And if you don't mention it, that's saying something, isn't it? So assess your talent pipeline. Are you at risk if you marginalize DEI as an initiative? Second is it's to be clear and transparent. We talked about this on the previous episode. If you are going to make changes, communicate them well, be transparent. Don't let employees find out, do some backdoor stuff or a quietly updated or quietly silenced policy. Next thing, if you do have DEI leaders or people that are championing change, try and support them. Give them some backup, give them some resources, give them a voice, prioritize their messages and give them the autonomy to drive real change. These people are going to do a job for you. Look at them carefully because they're going to be mentally burnt out with all the stuff that's going on at the moment. Another thing, think globally. You can't think in terms of your firm and your high street and your locale these days because particularly with hybrid and remote work, we are having to put up a unified approach on an international level. The US may be retreating on DI, but it seems the UK, Europe, where I am, they're doubling down. So how will it impact your global reputation, particularly if you're part of an international network or alliance or association? Look at what your clients want. If they are DEI pro, then you better follow in that, else they're going to switch off. They're going to take their business elsewhere. So your biggest clients might want a firm-wide commitment to diversity, and you might not have a say in it as an individual. If not, they might take their business elsewhere. So to wrap up, it's been a fairly long episode, but there's a lot to say about this. DEI is not going away. It's evolving, certainly. We're getting different approaches on this. And the question is will your firm evolve with it? Or you as an individual, will you evolve or will you get left behind? DEI still exists. As Dan Hood said at the beginning, we want to promote accounting as a profession to all kinds of people, particularly the people that have not seen it as a go-to career choice in the past. The firms that will win here are the ones that navigate the whole DEI issue. They'll keep attracting top talent. They'll keep building strong client relationship. They'll stay ahead of things. They'll make up their own path. And you can't have any more reasons to struggle with recruitment and retention. The ones that get it wrong, they might not survive. They certainly won't thrive. I'd love to hear your thoughts. We have a YouTube channel where people comment on this. If you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn as well, or any of the posts we put on there, then let us know your thoughts. Shifting sands for accounting. How is leadership handling it? How are you handling it as a leader? Are you taking a stand? Are you sitting back and waiting for the dust to settle? I'm Rob Brown. This is the Accounting Influencers Podcast. Stay informed, stay ahead, stay influential, stay authoritative, lead well, keep relevant. We'll see you on the next episode.